Oh, well, we want to say hi. I'm Kinita.
I'm Katy.
And this is Coaching Conversations with Katy and Kinita.
Yes.
You know what I'm really excited about talking about today is that it's World Women's Entrepreneurship Day.
So I think one of the biggest hurdles for me anyway has been learning to trust my gut instinct. So,
that's really great. I just thought of something last year, about a year and a half ago, I made a business decision. At the time, it was an excellent idea, super creative. Nobody was doing it. I went with it.
It's kind of getting comfortable with that idea. And
Yeah.
for me, lots of times thinking about, okay, well, what's the worst that could happen? And often I'm like, oh yeah, I could recover from that.
That's
put a plug in for coaches.
absolutely.
Why it's really great to have a coach, someone that you can work with,
Yes.
where it doesn't feel like I'm in this all on my own,
Yeah.
and I'm making these decisions, and who is a person that I could talk that through? Here's my pros, here's my cons.
Yeah.
This is what I've learned. What do you think?
Yeah. We want to say hi. I'm Kinita.
I'm Katy.
And this is Coaching Conversations with Katy and Kinita. So we're glad to be here today.
Yes.
So fun, finally in person. So that's exciting.
Yes. We're in the same time zone.
Yep.
Same state.
Fabulous. Love it.
Yes.
All this traveling, and now we're finally together. So this is wonderful.
Yes.
You know what I'm really excited about talking about today is that it's World Women's Entrepreneurship Day.
It's exciting.
I know. And it's a kind of a mouthful, right?
Yes.
World Women's Entrepreneurship. Tell me about that in your story. What does that look like? You are a certified coach and you run Klosterman Consulting.
I do.
And I too am a coach with SEMA Global Consulting and some other work that we all do. But let's talk a little bit about being an entrepreneur, being a woman, and how we can encourage other women out there today.
I think it wasn't too long ago that I realized I was an entrepreneur.
Right? That's so funny.
Thought, oh, wait, that's me. So I think some of that is kind of growing in and claiming that part of who I am.
Okay.
Has been kind of exciting.
Yeah.
And fun. And it does. It's fun, and it can sometimes be lonely because as a leader, it's just as you're growing and not always with a team, I'm working with people a lot of times, but not necessarily with a team. Can feel a little bit isolating.
Yes.
But then that's what's great about our partnership,
right?
And being able to connect is just having that network of other coaches and being able to reach out to one another and encourage one another makes a big difference.
Absolutely. I think that's so true. I love how you just said, it's fun, but then it's lonely.
Yeah.
It's isolating.
Yeah.
And then yet I'll throw a word in there. It's invigorating.
Yes.
Right? Being an entrepreneur, which I never thought I would be, that we didn't realize we were entrepreneurs. It's not something that's from my childhood. It's not something that's in my family. It became something that I got passionate about because I started to see what strengths I had and some of the work that I was trying to do. Even back when I owned my hair salon, that's being an entrepreneur, right?
Yes, it is.
Didn't realize that. So, but what does it mean? I think just how do we manage that? How do we manage being an entrepreneur? And how can we encourage others? Because for me lately, that loneliness, that isolation has really come to the surface. And so just connecting with you again has been so good for my heart. It's been really great. But, understanding what that looks like in our stories, so I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But
yeah. So I think as I was kind of reflecting on our conversation this afternoon and thinking about, okay, women, entrepreneurial leaders. So I think one of the biggest hurdles for me anyway has been learning to trust my gut instinct. So, I have a sense about certain things, and then just honoring that voice and kind of trusting it and knowing when to push forward, when to pull back is a big part of being an entrepreneur. And and especially as women, maybe not always feeling like our voices are trustworthy.
Right.
And so learning to, that you can count on your instincts.
That's a really good point, because as usual, we always connect back to strengths. And I was just thinking, oh yeah, listening to my gut, that's really important. I'm an activator. My number 3 strength is activator. So that gets me in trouble sometimes.
Right.
So really discerning and knowing that, okay, I'm going with my gut. But most times it seems like 8 out of 10 times, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's on point.
Yes.
Right. So as entrepreneurs, it's really important for us to listen to our gut and trust ourselves. Because if we're not trusting in our decisions or in ourselves, people are going to see that, right?
Yeah.
They're going to hear that, and then they're not going to trust us either. So,
yes. And how does that sort of hold us back at times when, because we're, I think you're not always feeling 100% like I'm totally confident. Sometimes it's moving forward in a space that feels risky.
Yeah.
I mean, there is risk.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of getting comfortable with that idea. And for me, lots of times thinking about, okay, well, what's the worst that could happen? And often I'm like, oh yeah, I can recover from that.
That's why we get along so well.
It's like, it wouldn't be good, but if that's the worst thing that happened, so
we should just try.
Yeah. So sometimes it's that naming and acknowledging, like, I'm afraid, I think this or this could go badly. And then, but then also being able to see, like, even if that did happen, chances are low, but even if it did happen, I could recover from that.
Yeah.
So beginning to kind of build that resilience, like having that space of like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
that's really great. I just thought of something last year, about a year and a half ago, I made a business decision. At the time, it was an excellent idea, super creative. Nobody was doing it.
Yeah.
I went with it. A year later, I realized through some circumstances, probably wasn't a great decision at the time.
Oh, sure.
So I went with my gut.
Yeah.
I took a leap of faith.
Yeah.
I had some good support. Unfortunately, the outcome wasn't what I had hoped for. And then it required me to manage things that I really couldn't do very well myself, and my team wasn't very well equipped.
Yeah.
And so we just felt like, okay, you know what? We're going to have to like put a stop to that, shift our direction, and implement differently, right?
Yeah.
And at the time I thought, oh man, I can't believe I made that decision. It was terrible, this and that. But when you're talking about going with our gut, going with our instinct, it's what I did. I went with what I knew with all the facts that I had, that it was the right thing. I probably put my trust in some people more than I should have. So that was probably part of why it didn't go as well as I had hoped. I also needed to learn some things on how to manage that situation, and I didn't learn them as well as I could have. So, but I'm glad that I stepped out of it. And then I realized, you know what? Businesses always make decisions. Someone somewhere will always make a decision that wasn't the best decision.
And so much that you learned from that.
Tons and tons. And since I don't like the word pivot, but I pivoted, right? Yeah. It's overused.
You responded.
But I did. We responded. We shifted gears.
Yeah.
We've been going in a different direction since then, and it's feeling like it's going to get a little bit better traction.
I think that's an important lesson in business. Like, what makes sense in one period of time can sometimes later on discontinue to make sense. Like it becomes, okay, we need to change.
Yeah.
We need to respond to this because this was true at point A, but now at point C, it's no longer true.
Right.
And so now we need to respond to that. And those are the things that also take, bravery to say, it was good at the time with the information that I had, but now I have more information and things are different now. And it is now good to go a different direction.
Right.
And those are hard decisions to make at times.
Yeah. And I think what was hard was just one feeling, realizing that the decision didn't go the way that I wanted it to. And at that time, I didn't want permission to make the decision, but to shift gears, I was like, could someone just give me permission to like restructure this? Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted permission, but I'm the entrepreneur. I'm the business owner. I'm the lead. I'm the final yes or no.
Yes.
So it was just an interesting process that I found myself in a space where I needed somebody else to give me the permission
Yeah.
to make that decision. And then I realized, well, I didn't ask anyone permission in the beginning
Yeah.
except myself. So I had to understand that I myself had to make that decision now to kind of undo.
Yes. And that's kind of the lonely
Yeah,
aspect of leadership, I think. But also then, I mean, to put a plug in for coaches,
absolutely.
why it's really great to have a coach,
Mhm.
someone that you can work with,
Yes.
where it doesn't feel like I'm in this all on my own,
Yeah.
and I'm making these decisions, and who is a person that I could talk that through? Here's my pros, here's my cons.
Yeah.
This is what I've learned. What do you think?
Yeah.
So a great
That's
place.
a great plug. Yeah, I think it's a great plug for coach. And not just because we're coaches, but even our conversation before we started this recorded conversation
Yes.
was very much a space where I was able to process out loud some things with you
Yes.
that are giving me some food for thought. But it was just helpful that we also need each other, right? Like
Yes.
coaches need coaches, and none of us need to be walking alone. But I think that space where as entrepreneurs, we feel the pressure.
Yeah.
And I think then we double down with that pressure
Mhm.
as women.
Yes.
I find myself in situations where we live that as a woman, I'm trying to make these decisions, but I don't have a lot of support with other women helping me in that space or like cheering for me, I guess, if I'm allowed to say that out loud. And so how do we do that for each other? What's a great way to, how do we encourage each other to kind of stay away from some of those pressures, but just acknowledge them for what they are?
Well, I definitely, I think Clifton's Strengths fits in to this space because we each have different strengths that we're bringing to the table, that it encourages us to, what's yours does not need to be mine, because mine is over here and mine is suited for me and my strengths, and yours is suited for yours, you and your strengths.
Very true.
And so that idea of, can we have an abundance mentality, like there's enough to go around. This is countercultural.
That's good.
I will just say that. Like, people do not
sharing is caring, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we operate generally in a scarcity mindset. There's not enough to go around.
True.
And we've got to hustle and we've got to do all of these things. So I guess I'm challenging that and saying, what's it like to live more open-handed and believe like there is enough to go around?
Yeah, that's
and
good.
What are my opportunities? How do I make the most of my opportunities? I'm certainly not saying don't be ambitious. I think be ambitious.
Yeah, right.
Like, you were made for great things.
Absolutely.
So, but just, I think the clearer we are on what are my things.
Yes, that's good.
And again, kind of that strengths conversation helps me get really clear on what's the best yes for me.
Good. That's good. I like to follow that too, that what is the best yes.
Yeah.
And learning to say no and putting those healthy boundaries in place. Huge part of being successful and, really growing forward with our work. When I think of my strengths, then as I implement them, connectedness is my number one. So of course, as an entrepreneur, I'm going to think about how can I be connected with other women and other individuals to kind of not only just help me grow, but how can I implement that into their lives or pour it out for them?
Yeah.
So connectedness, but then when I feel lonely, I start to think about the responsibility, right? Like my responsibility is really high for the work that I'm doing. The bills are not going to get paid if I don't get the clients.
Right.
Just a little pitch for coaches again.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? We're terrible.
Well, that's the reality.
It is the reality, right? Are we running our businesses just to keep the lights on, so to speak, and pay the bills? And, but we love the work so much. So my responsibility really is for pouring this work out for other people, but then also being responsible for myself and making sure I'm taking care of myself. So self-care is crucial, making sure that when I do feel lonely, call up those friends, have those conversations, do what I need to do to stay healthy and stay connected. And at the end of the day, you never know who the next person is going to be. Like, are we talking to somebody that's really going to, take off in their workplace down the road? Yeah. Can I be an encouragement to them? Can I keep pouring out? Sometimes that loneliness can be counterbalanced or counterattacked, yes.
For sure.
By keeping those connections open and alive.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And
Yeah.
I love that that's how connectedness kind of shows up for
Yeah.
you. And it's my number two. So I also, connectedness, often I'm relying on that as a strategic strength to help
Mm-hmm.
me sort of, what's my plan?
Yep.
How are things connected? If I do this, then, what are the possibilities
Right.
that can happen?
Yeah. And positivity is your first one, right?
It is.
Well, look at that. That's
Comes in handy.
really helpful. Yeah, I know I was a beneficiary of all of that positivity when I came in today to see you.
I'm definitely the person you need to talk to if you're trying to figure out, how is this going to work out?
You are so right. Can you free up your schedule for me to have a conversation down the road?
It's like, let me tell you how I think it's all going to work out.
Yeah. Well, how can we encourage other women? One of the ways that I'm doing it where I live is I've started an initiative called She Speaks. And I love working with professional and business women, helping them, be encouraged in their journey. It's a very intimate group at the moment, but we're hoping to grow it and provide it as a source, a resource, or a tool, an organization where women can come and really be empowered, encouraged, and equipped with quality content that we put out. And then also it's a way for women to just really get to know each other and have that support, right? I think for me, having experienced loneliness in my lane with my work, it's given me the impetus to provide a group like this to help women not feel that, right? It's a place where, there's no gossip allowed.
Yes.
We're not competing with each other. We're walking with each other, right? We're journeying with each other. And I really want women to feel that. And so for folks who are listening, please check out our website at semaglobalconsulting.com. You can learn more about She Speaks and throw me a note. We can chat about it some more. We'd love for you to join anywhere in India that you're interested in joining us. So
I love that.
What are some ways in which you're using your work to also empower, equip, and encourage other folks?
What are some ways?
Yeah, because I know you are.
I know. I just recently went back to school, so I'm feeling a little bit of still trying to find my footing of what is what school stuff is taking up, and then also where does the coaching fit into all of that? So it's been really good, but I think just a lot of times just on those one-on-one relationships where I'm getting to meet with different people and encourage them, which kind of, positivity. It naturally flows out of just how can I encourage and how can I help people envision, I think, a positive outcome. So yeah.
No, can I take a risk and just share a little bit of what you shared earlier?
Yes.
You were talking, because a statement came in my head just now about that. Like, I think sometimes entrepreneurs think that we have to do it all.
Yeah.
Right? As business owners, we do have to do it all in terms of understanding what our business is about and understanding every aspect of our business to make sure at least we're aware of all the pieces, all the parts. But that's just the business. Then there's life. So in my story, I've got marriage, I've got kids, I've got grandkids, I've got, other things that I like, places that I volunteer and my own personal time and hobbies and those kinds of things. So there's a lot of juggling going on.
Yes.
And so you just listed several things that you're doing, but I know you, you're not the person who says we can do it all. We have to do it all. No, you mentioned something earlier about when you're in school. What was the comment that a friend shared with you about how do we handle that instead of having the attitude that we have to do it all because that's what the world's message is. And a lot of people around us keep telling us, measure up, burnout, kind of different messages.
Yeah.
So what would be some advice that you'd give in regards to that conversation about doing it all?
Well, my really good friend had said to me, you love school and don't miss like this opportunity. Like really, if school is where you are right now, it's kind of that idea of how do we be present where we are? Like be where my feet are.
That's good.
That's often what we'll say. Like,
that's good.
So not always thinking to the future.
Yeah.
Like, which is really tempting
Mm-hmm.
because I think people ask a lot of questions about our future always.
Yeah.
We'll do one thing and it's like, oh, what are you going to do next? And that can feel like a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So to combat that, a lot of like, well, this is where I am.
Yep.
Like, so right now has been, what are the things? I kind of have a bucket of clients that I say yes to. It's pretty small. And then, but my bigger bucket right now is my school bucket.
Mm-hmm.
So working on my master's and trying to, there's lots of homework.
I hear you. Wow.
so-
More power to you.
But in that, having to kind of enmesh that into my life is
Mhm.
exactly the same thing. I am married. I have 4 kids. I don't want to shortchange those people who are really important to me
Yeah.
in by being too busy.
I hear you.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is always, I think there is sort of that juggle
Yeah.
of how do I still have space for my friends, for my family? Because relationship is really key.
That is really good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, it's kind of the practicing the power of being present.
Yeah.
Maybe we should make that the title of the segment.
Yes.
Practicing the power of being present.
It's so challenging.
Right. It is so challenging.
Yeah.
You and I were going to do an event this month, and
Yes.
it just didn't happen because life, busyness, the holidays are here
right.
in the US. So the title of that was called So What to Now What?
Yeah.
And I just think that was this is what this is about, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what? You're an entrepreneur. Now what? I hope the folks were encouraged by our conversation today. I know I definitely was.
I
and-
was too.
Yeah, it was so good. And we just want to encourage, did you want to say anything in closing to the women that are listening or the folks that are listening about what it means to be an entrepreneur and a woman today in this case?
I would just encourage you, if you have a dream, and to follow that dream. If
Awesome.
you want to own your own company
Mhm.
and there's something, you can do it for sure. And there's lots of different, there's no one right way
Agreed.
to go about doing it. So
That's
take
what
the-
you do.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Do it.
And to end on a more positive note, there's a lot of joy. There's a lot of joy in being a business owner. The people that I get to meet, the
Yeah.
connections, whether they're clients or just a general networking experience. It's just a whole different culture, so to speak. But it's a great way to really expand, not only grow the business, but grow who you are. I have learned so much more about who I am, what I'm capable of, and really who I need in my circle.
Yes.
So I really appreciate that. So thank you for your time. This was so great.
Thank you, Kinita.
Till next time.
That's right.